frequently, I am a vessel of God. What a powerful message for us to have this morning. I say welcome again to those who have joined us here in the center. It's good to see you, to see faces that I haven't seen in a while, to see some new faces that are joining us, and to know that we are alive with the Spirit because we are vessels of God. And I say welcome to our extended family that is joining us on Zoom, and to those who will be watching our service, or this portion of the service, on our Facebook page and on our YouTube channel. We're continuing with our theme for the month of April, which is the power of vulnerability. And today we're going to be looking at vulnerability, those cracks and canyons in our lives. Every year it happens. Earth shakes her sleepy head, still a bit weathered and dull, and feeling new life stirring. Every year, cocoons give up their treasures. Fresh sprouts push through brown leaves. Seemingly dead branches shine with green, and singing birds find their way home. Every year, we hear stories: the empty tomb, surprised grievers, runners with news and revelation, unexpected encounters, conversations on the road, tales of nets filling with fish, and breakfast on a seashore. That piece sounds good. Breakfast on a warm seashore about now. And every year, the dull and dread of us meets our Easter challenge: to be open to the unexpected, to believe beyond our security, to welcome God in every form, and to trust in our own greeting. And this is from the book Out of the Ordinary by Joyce Rump. So I say to you again, Happy Easter. In my former Christian church community that I grew up in, Easter was a big celebration. Great attention was prepared to making sure that the interior and the exterior of the facility was pruned and freshened up and welcoming and alive with the new life. It was a time to shift from the darkness of Holy Week into the light of Easter and that which followed. There was a full choir with uplifting and joyful music, and the Easter program featuring the youth in their Easter finery. And as I was remembering this, I had a flashback to a really early age. I was in grammar school, and I'll just leave that as a range. But I remember having a piece to say on the Easter program at our church. And it was an afternoon program. And we had gone through the rehearsals, and I had done fine with the rehearsal. I had my piece memorized. Come Sunday afternoon, the lights dim, this room full of people, and I froze. I actually froze. And I spotted my mother in the audience, and I remember locking in on her face. And everything just seemed to relax and flow, and everything came out perfectly as it was rehearsed. And so that was a memory that I have of a special time. It was also a time, Easter is also a time for family gatherings. Perhaps there's a family meal or some other family activities. And again, a memory of my childhood. I remember my mother's signature leg of lamb that she made for Easter dinner. And the requirement was that my father and I dress for dinner, even if it was only the three of us that were sharing the Easter dinner together. Now, growing up as a child, I had 3 sets of clothes. I had school clothes, I had church clothes, and I had play clothes. And those three did not mix together. They were their own separate entities. I see some nodding of heads. And so the requirement that we dress meant that I put on Sunday clothes, Now, my dad was not a churchgoer, but he complied. And dressing meant that you showed up with a collared shirt, not a not a t-shirt or a sweatshirt. I don't even remember if I had sweatshirts as a kid. Growing up in the South, probably didn't need them. But at some point in my life, I began to question what seemed it seemed like there was something lacking following Easter. There was the excitement and the joy and the celebration and the coming together and people getting along. And then we kind of faded back and slipped back into the same old, same old. Kind of like what we're experiencing now, coming out of the pandemic. There are those among us who want things to be as they were. And that is not the case. This is a new day. This is a new opportunity. We're viewing new territory. We're embarking on new territory. And so my journey into metaphysics and New Thought opened an entirely new vista of understanding for me about the meaning of Easter and its application to life in its entirety. And this particular quote from our founder, Ernest Holmes, resonated with me. And he writes in Questions and Answers to the Science of Mind, there is no resurrection life opposed to another life. There is no immortality as opposed to mortality, any more than there is a divine mind which is opposed to the human mind. The universe refuses to be divided. Jesus understood this when he said that God is not a God of the dead, but a God of the living, for all live unto God. And what Holmes is saying to us in this quote is that we are invited to shift our spiritual thinking from that place of duality into recognizing that the universe is not in opposition against itself. Living in this human experience, we do have experiences and situations where opposites are a reality of life. However, in the spiritual realm, in consciousness, there is no duality because the mind of God, that infinite intelligence, is not in opposition to itself. And each one of us is an individualized expression of this divine mind. Eric Butterworth, another metaphysical teacher and writer, offers this in Discover the Power Within You. Metaphysically, Easter is the awakening and arising to spiritual consciousness and the Christ within us. When we are born again metaphysically, we see a new spiritual dimension. From the spiritual place in our hearts and in our minds, we know the kingdom of God is within us, as Jesus taught, and anything and everything is possible. Through the resurrection, Jesus demonstrated that the life of God is changeless and eternal for each of us because of our divinity. Within the mysteries of life and death, we can trust that our own souls are immortal. And so as we move into today's topic, vulnerability, cracks, and crannies, let's discover the power within us. Last week, we established a base for our monthly theme or a definition for vulnerability that we'll be working with. And we defined it in two parts. Vulnerability is a key ingredient in our own personal transformation. And it is also creating an expanded awareness of what lies just below the surface. And so today we're going to go just below the surface and explore how fear, uncertainty, and comparison arise when we set our intention to live a life out loud from a vulnerable and authentic space. I read a quote during the week that has really shifted me and has in a way become my new mantra. And it's by marketing researcher Evan Rosch. And the quote reads, and I want you to really listen to this. The quote reads, "Other people's lives seem better than yours because you're comparing their director's cuts with your behind the scenes." I'll say that again. Other people's lives seem better because what we're seeing and what we're comparing is their director's cut, that which has been polished and is now being presented for our view. We're comparing that to our behind the scenes, which sometimes appears to be chaotic, with fragments hither and yon scattered all over the place. There's a Netflix series, and I'm not remembering the name of it now, but it's a fashion show, designers contest that I kind of been binge watching. I watched season 2, and then I came back and watched season 1. And what this quote reminds me of is, as you're looking at the designers creating, and I would say that any of you who are seamsters or artists or craftsmen of any sort, you know, there are bits and pieces and fragments of the creation that kind of break away while the picture of what we want as an end result emerges. Well, I look at the pieces of fabric that are on the floor where the patterns are being cut and shaped, and reminds, my mother was a seamstress. And so I'm remembering the scraps of material that were gathered up afterwards and saved to be used for something else. And so sometimes our lives look like those scraps and pieces that are scattered around from the creation, and the director's cut that we present to this outer face that we show is a reflection of what came out of seeming chaos into something that is marvelous and beautiful. Science of Mind teaches that there is something within us that has never been affected by fear, uncertainty, or comparison. This place is the home of spirit, that individualized expression of wholeness residing in each of us. This space is the very birthplace of vulnerability and authenticity. It is that gentle creative urge that propels us forward into a deeper and deeper expression of ourselves. Ernest Holmes offers this in the book called The Art of Life. All human endeavor is an attempt to get back to first principles, to find such an inward wholeness that all sense of fear, doubt, and uncertainty vanishes. And so the spiritual journey takes us back to that place of wholeness, back to remembering that in the mind and in the eyes of God, we're whole, perfect, and complete just as we are. And this is what first cause, and this is what first principles are. So let's take a little closer look at fear, uncertainty, and comparison. Fear can sometimes be a powerful barrier to vulnerability and may be experienced in different ways by different people. Imagine, if you will, a vast canyon that is stretched out as far as the eye can see. Some people may see this as the most exciting adventure that they have ever observed. I haven't visited the Grand Canyon yet. It is on my bucket list, but I have an image of the Grand Canyon as this marvelous vista, this marvelous place to be explored, to be in touch with the very nature of God, to be in touch with our own divinity and our humanity. A very exciting opportunity. However, for others, this same vista, this same canyon may represent fear. The fear of trying something new, the fear of rejection, the fear of what others may think, the fear of not being good enough, or perhaps some old erroneous ideas of shame and blame. Fear, although not always pleasant, can be a very helpful emotion if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And to be vulnerable just means to relax and to let go of any attachments to an outcome, to just be that place where God shows up. Vulnerability can shed light on areas of our lives that require a closer look, or areas within our communities or our society at large where changes are needed to create safe spaces for everyone to express and experience vulnerability. And this is what we're about with this whole theme of vulnerability, is to create that safe space where we are safe and those around us are safe. Ernest Holmes again reminds us in this thing called you, there is something within you beyond all doubt and fear, something which has never been limited by your acts or destroyed by your feelings. This is the only something that can make you whole. And that something is Spirit itself. It is God itself. Let's look at uncertainty. Uncertainty invites us to be vulnerable and to become friends with uncertainty. Uncertainty invites us to become friends with it. Often the thought or the hint of uncertainty stops us in our tracks. We want to plan and then have a backup plan, and then have a backup plan to the backup plan. In Science of Mind, we say, if you want to make God laugh, make a plan. Planning can go on endlessly and hamper our willingness to take risk and be vulnerable. I just recently completed an introductory program to meditation practice that I am experimenting with. And it was a 7-day kickstart to introduction to this practice. And on the 7th day, we were to come up with a plan for moving forward on our own, and then to have a backup plan. And I was really stumped for a moment, if you will, because I'm not accustomed to writing out a plan for my meditation practice. And I go, okay, I've gotten off kilter a little bit, so perhaps writing a plan will bring me back into focus and into alignment. So I just offer that as an example of how planning can actually work to support us. But the whole idea is to not be married to the plan, to be flexible, to remember it is only a plan, it is only a guide, and to be in the flow of life as it happens. Uncertainty is a part of the wholeness of life itself. We can choose to see it as a barrier to opening ourselves up, or we can meet it with curiosity and move in ways that are in alignment with the truth of who we are as expressions of the divine. We then find that the cracks of uncertainty often are paved over with the awareness of the one thing that is back of all things, and that is God. We find that those cracks in uncertainty are now paved over with the one thing that is in back of all things, and that is God. And this awareness opens us up to a new door and invites us to step into an expanded awareness of the truth of who we are. Uncertainty primes us to ask questions and to absorb new ideas. And this is by Adam Grant in the book, Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. And finally, comparison. Comparison can impact our ability to be vulnerable, to be willing to take risk, and to be willing to step out and reveal our true selves. An example of this is to take stock of all of the people in the room, or to read the room as the expression goes, and then gauge our self-expression based on how we rank ourselves in comparison to everyone else that is in the room. True confession. I find myself engaging in this practice, especially in a new setting. And what I'm really asking myself is, can I be safe in this space? And so I'm going to position myself where I can see the room. And I engage my feelings to feel the room, to feel the energy in the room. And if I feel safe, or if I feel the opportunity of the invitation is to look at those areas where we may be playing small, and we can begin to explore how we can use vulnerability to harness the magnificence of our authentic selves. Theodore Roosevelt said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." So let us reclaim our joy. And so some closing points that I offer to us is choosing to be vulnerable enough to express our authentic selves is not always easy. Understand fear, uncertainty, and comparison are not things to be avoided, ignored, or stressed. They are a part of our life experience. This is the work. This is the call to action. We choose whether or not to allow ourselves to be limited by past experiences, staying in the way of our showing up as our true selves, or we choose to look at these new experiences in the face and move forward with authenticity and in the power of knowing that I am the place where God shows up. It is in this close view that we begin the work of removing the barriers to vulnerability, expressing a life truly lived out loud, and create a safe space for us and for others to show up authentically. Be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. To be yourself in a world that is trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. And we can thank Ralph Waldo Emerson for that piece of wisdom. And let us share together now our weekly affirmation. I dare to be powerful. I use my strength in the service of my vision. Let us say that together. I dare to be powerful. I use my strength in the service of my vision. And then the life work that I offer to you, should you choose to do so, is what I have called the application of the affirmation. And do we have a PowerPoint for that? Okay. Great questions to consider during the week. What are some areas where I may be playing small? What are some areas where I may be playing small? How can I harness the power of curiosity in time of uncertainty? And how can I begin to create safe spaces for myself and others to be multiple. So I invite us to breathe together. We breathe into the awareness of this all-prevailing presence of spirit. One life, the one power, the one source of all that there is. Knowing that I am the place where God shows up, because there is only one life. And that life is God's life. That life is whole, it is perfect, it is complete. It is the life that I am living now. And it is the life of everyone that is gathered here in our center, those who are joining us virtually. The life that we live is the life of God. We are that place where God shows up. And so I am so grateful that on this day that is called Easter, this time of resurrection, this time of new birth, this time of spring, this time of light that is beaming every single area of our life. It is a time of joy. It is a time of celebration. It is a time of tapping into that new vision that I am enough and that I can be vulnerable enough to show up authentically and to live life out loud and to create that safe space where I live my life out loud and I create that safe space for others to live their life out loud, recognizing that we all contribute to this journey that is called life. How good it is to know that prayers are being answered, where people are gathering, that the experience of oneness is happening. As we journey along this path, where our paths are parallel or where they intersect together, life is happening, joy is happening, experiences are happening. Light is shining into those dark places, saying to each one, you are enough. You are my beloved. I am that place where God shows up. And so I speak my word of blessing this morning for any area of our lives where we're going through what may be called a transition. Whether it is a transition into a joyful space or a transition into what seems to be chaotic. For I know that the spiritual essence of who I am, the spiritual essence of who we are, is ushering us, is holding us in those places where we need to be held, where we need to be embraced, where we need just a little bit more love, a little bit more tenderness, a little bit more compassion. And as we let go of fear, as we embrace uncertainty, and as we release comparison, I know that everything continues to unfold for the highest and the best of each one that is concerned. And so for this and so much more, I give thanks. I give thanks for the power of this word that is spoken. I give thanks for our time together this morning, knowing that each one is lifted in the spirit, in the light, in the love of God, this creative essence, this creative intelligence. So in gratitude for all of this, I release this word now back into that presence, that law, which always says yes. And I just allow this to be so. And if any of what I have said resonates with you in any way, let us affirm it together by saying, and so it is, and so. I want to take this opportunity to remind each of us that the ministers and practitioners here at the center are available to meet with you for prayer and for spiritual coaching and spiritual guidance. And I do not use the term spiritual counseling because we're not licensed as counselors. Our licenses allow us to coach and to guide. And in the coaching and the guidance, if there is a mutual awareness that something deeper with a trained counselor is required, then we move in that direction. We're here to be with you and to pray with you and to know the truth of the essence of who you are. And so our contact information is on our website, and it's also in our newsletter. And now this is our time to share in the abundance of life through our tithes and our offerings. And again, as always, I thank you for the marvelous ways that you continue to support the center, allowing us to fulfill our mission, and that is to be the change, to be the place where God shows up. And we have a statement of abundance that I invite us to share together now. I recognize the presence of God within as the source of my abundance. Out of my abundance consciousness flows everything I could desire in a life. With gratitude and thanksgiving, I now participate in the uninterrupted flow of abundance. This prosperous experience is evidence of my abundance consciousness. And so there are ways to participate in the sharing of your abundance. You may mail your contributions in to the center, and our address is on your screen. You may text to give, and that number is on the screen, and you may also donate through our online website, and that information is on our screen. And for those of you who are here in the center this morning, we have a donation box on our hospitality table. And when I walked in this morning, I said, it is probably no accident that the people who prepared the Easter egg scavenger hunt for us that we're engaging in after service today placed a green egg right at the opening for the prosperity box. So, so thank you, Spirit, for dropping that little note, that little idea into the mind of those who are preparing the space. And so I just want to take a few moments to remind our virtual community of some things that are happening here at the center. Today after service, we're having a Easter egg scavenger hunt and also a brunch. And so you're invited to stay and join us for our brunch together. Also on a weekly ongoing basis, we have visioning for our center on Saturday mornings. And then we have personal visioning for our own lives on Sunday. The Saturday visioning for the center is via Zoom, and that information is on the screen. And the Sunday visioning is here in our bookstore. That information is also on our website. On this Saturday, the 14th, there will be a celebration of life for our beloved Christy Schock, who stepped off of this mortal plane into the realm of immortality. And Irene Frostberg is hosting the celebration at her home, and there's information in our newsletter with her address and other information. And I understand this is a potluck, so we bring what we would like, bring something that we like to share. And there's also directions here in the center by the coffee pot on the back table. So it's an invitation to stop and mingle. And then on next Sunday, April 16th, is Soul Collage, which is facilitated by Denise Calhoun. And then on the fourth Sunday is our Spiritual Living Circle. And I will be facilitating that for Denise, who will be away that particular Sunday. And so we look forward to you participating with us in those events. And now we say good morning to our virtual community that is joining us, that is viewing this by means of electronic transmission. I think those words are coming out right. Wherever you're viewing, whenever you're viewing this, we say you're always welcome here at the Monterey Center. And we invite you to join us next week. We're continuing our theme, The Power of Vulnerability, and our message is letting go and letting in. So we invite you to join us for that. And now we will, and so we say good morning to our Facebook and our YouTube community.